to catch him, and I think it's more important to get back to that little girl with her doll.
Well, maybe you're right.
You think you know the singing cowboy? Think again. The Roy Rogers Show wasn't just another Western, it was a surreal blend of modern America and frontier fantasy that defied logic and captivated millions. From 1951 to 1957, Roy Rogers, his wife Dale Evans, sidekick Pat Brady, and animal co-stars Trigger and Bullet brought a world to television that was part dream, part time capsule, and part cultural phenomenon. But behind the wholesome image lay some of the strangest and most unexpected details in TV history. This is the story of a show where horses coexisted with jeeps, villains met Bible lessons, and the king of the Cowboys became a legend unlike any other. A town out of time. Mineral City, the fictional home of The Roy Rogers Show, looks like a typical Western town at first glance. Yet, a closer look reveals something completely bizarre. The citizens ride horses through streets lined with telegraph poles. But there are cars parked by the general store. Roy uses a 6-gun to capture criminals, but the local diner has a telephone. It's a time warp where the Old West meets the modern 1950s, and the show never explains it. This creative paradox made the Roy Rogers Show unique even among Westerns. It blended two worlds, the cowboy frontier and post-war suburban America, into one surreal backdrop. Audiences didn't question it, they loved it. But today the setting feels almost dreamlike, as though Roy Rogers and Dale Evans lived in a Western caught halfway between legend and progress. This odd combination gave the series its signature charm and a sense of mystery that no other Western of its era quite matched. Trigger, the horse that lived on. Trigger wasn't just a horse, he was television royalty. Known as the smartest horse in the movies, Trigger performed over 100 tricks. He could walk on his hind legs, cover himself with a blanket, and even sign his name with an X. He became as famous as Roy Rogers himself, appearing in films, television, and personal appearances across America. But what happened after Trigger's death in 1965 still stuns people today. Roy couldn't bear to part with him, so he had Trigger's hide carefully preserved over a foam likeness and placed on display at the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum. Visitors could still meet the legendary horse long after he was gone. For fans, Trigger's preservation wasn't creepy. It was a tribute to an animal star that represented loyalty and grace. Yet, for others, it became one of Hollywood's strangest memorials, a testament to just how deeply the cowboy and his horse were intertwined. The merchandising empire. Before Star Wars or Marvel, there was Roy Rogers. The Roy Rogers Show launched one of the most successful merchandising empires in television history. Everything from toy pistols to cowboy hats carried his name. Roy's face appeared on lunchboxes, cap guns, comic books, and even breakfast cereal boxes. Children across America dressed like their television hero, and millions of Roy Rogers comic books flew off shelves each month. This marketing success was groundbreaking. It turned a family-friendly Western into a brand that extended far beyond the TV screen. The wholesome cowboy image was carefully managed to appeal to parents and children alike, symbolizing courage, decency, and faith. But it was also a business empire, one of the earliest examples of cross-media branding and entertainment. Roy Rogers didn't just ride into living rooms. He rode into toy stores, supermarkets, and playgrounds. The king of the Cowboys had become the king of marketing, paving the way for modern celebrity merchandising. The man behind the name. Roy Rogers wasn't born Roy Rogers at all. His real name was Leonard Franklin Sly, a farm boy from Ohio with a passion for music and horses. In the 1930s, Leonard joined a Western singing group called the Sons of the Pioneers, where his charm and voice stood out. When Hollywood came calling, producers wanted a name that sounded heroic, something that would stick in the minds of moviegoers. Leonard Sly became Roy Rogers, the king of the Cowboys. The transformation was complete, a humble musician turned cinematic legend. But behind the camera, he remained down to earth, deeply rooted in faith and family. The name Roy Rogers was no accident. It was crafted to symbolize honesty, courage, and the ideal American cowboy. Few realized that the persona was as carefully designed as any Hollywood superhero. It's a reminder that even the most iconic stars are often built from myth as much as reality. Trigger's astonishing intelligence. Trigger wasn't famous just for his beauty or speed, he was celebrated for his intelligence. Trained by Roy Rogers himself, Trigger could perform more than 150 distinct tricks. He could bow to an audience, count with his hoof, untie ropes, open gates, and even dance in rhythm to music. His ability to follow complex cues astonished trainers and fans alike. Unlike many animal actors, Trigger seemed to understand the camera. He'd face toward it, hit his marks, and respond to signals so subtle that they were invisible to viewers. Roy often said that Trigger knew what I was thinking, describing their bond as almost telepathic. This remarkable connection made Trigger a star in his own right. He wasn't just Roy's horse, he was his partner, friend, and co-performer, a symbol of loyalty that millions of fans came to love. In an era when Hollywood often replaced animals, Trigger's presence was constant, proving that charisma isn't limited to humans. The Jeep that didn't belong. In a world of horses, hats, and harmonicas, one mechanical misfit stood out: Nellie Bell, Pat Brady's Jeep. The Jeep became one of the show's most iconic characters, even though it didn't belong in a classic Western setting. While Roy and Dale rode Trigger and Buttermilk, Pat drove this noisy, temperamental 1946 Willys CJ2A. The sight of a cowboy chasing outlaws in a post-war Jeep baffled viewers. Yet, it somehow worked. The inclusion of Nellie Bell was both comedic and modern. It brought slapstick humor to the dusty world of Cowboys and created a strange blend of the frontier past and mid-century America. The Jeep often had a mind of its own, sputtering and jerking as if it were another character entirely. Viewers grew to love Nellie Bell. She symbolized progress creeping into the Old West, a piece of the modern world crashing into the simplicity of frontier life. Even decades later, fans remember the Jeep's quirky charm as one of the strangest and most memorable parts of the series. Nellie Bell's combination of humor, absurdity, and nostalgia helped cement the show's timeless appeal, proving that sometimes the weirdest elements become the most beloved. Faith in the saddle. Beneath the cheerful cowboy songs and action scenes, the Roy Rogers Show carried a quiet but clear spiritual message. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans were outspoken Christians who believed their show should promote moral values. Each episode ended with a simple, uplifting lesson about honesty, courage, forgiveness, or faith. While the series was not overtly religious, many plots carried biblical undertones that set it apart from other westerns of the era. For instance, villains often found redemption instead of destruction. Episodes closed with Roy offering words of wisdom or Dale singing a hymn-like ballad. Even the theme song, Happy Trails, reflected a faith-based optimism about life's journey. This approach was unusual in early television. The blending of entertainment with moral instruction gave the show a wholesome reputation that parents appreciated and critics respected. In an era when TV was still finding its boundaries, the Roy Rogers Show proved that faith and family-friendly storytelling could coexist without compromising excitement. Today, this spiritual influence remains part of the show's enduring charm, a reminder that even a cowboy series could carry messages of kindness and hope that resonated far beyond the frontier. The museum that disappeared. For decades, the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum served as a shrine to Hollywood's most beloved cowboy couple. Inside its walls stood Trigger, preserved in perfect form, alongside Bullet the Wonder Dog, Dale's horse Buttermilk, and countless mementos from their careers. Fans traveled from across America to see the Cowboys' world frozen in time. But by 2009, the museum could no longer sustain itself. The Branson, Missouri location closed its doors, and the entire collection went to auction. Trigger's taxidermied body, Roy's saddle collection, and even his Pontiac Bonneville covered in silver dollars were sold to private collectors. For longtime fans, it was heartbreaking. The closing symbolized the fading of a simpler Hollywood era, where heroes were clear and values were steadfast. Yet, even in dissolution, the museum's legacy lived on through documentaries, memorabilia, displays, and online archives that continue to preserve the spirit of Roy and Dale. The museum's story reminds us that nostalgia itself can be fragile, and even legends must find new ways to endure. 3 stars on the Walk of Fame. Few entertainers in Hollywood history have earned as much cross-medium respect as Roy Rogers. While many celebrities received a single star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Roy earned 3. one each for motion pictures, radio, and television. It was a rare honor that reflected his extraordinary influence across multiple forms of entertainment. Before becoming a television icon, Roy had already conquered radio and film. His radio show, The Roy Rogers Show, brought his singing and storytelling into American homes before television even existed. On the silver screen, he appeared in more than 80 films, often alongside Trigger. Then came the TV series, which made him a household name. The triple recognition on Hollywood Boulevard stands as a monument to an artist who bridged every major entertainment medium of his time. It also testifies to the power of branding and personality in the golden age of show business. Roy Rogers was not just a cowboy, he was a multimedia pioneer who helped shape the image of the American hero across generations. The birth of Trigger. Before he became the most famous horse in Hollywood, Trigger was known by a very different name, Golden Cloud. He first appeared as Olivia de Havilland's horse in the 1938 film, The Adventures of Robin Hood. When Roy Rogers was offered the chance to buy him, he immediately recognized something special in the Golden Palomino's intelligence and spirit. Roy renamed him Trigger, a name that captured both his quickness and energy. From that point forward, Trigger became Roy's constant companion on and off screen. The horse's golden coat and gentle demeanor made him instantly recognizable. Together, they performed at state fairs, rodeos, and charity events, long after the cameras stopped rolling. Trigger's new name became a symbol of trust and teamwork. The bond between man and horse went beyond Hollywood image-making. It reflected genuine affection. Trigger was more than a co-star. He was family. In a town built on reinvention, even a horse could find new identity and immortality. The name Golden Cloud faded, but Trigger lives forever in television history. A studio west of reality. Although The Roy Rogers Show presented the illusion of wide-open Western landscapes, the magic mostly happened on sound stages and movie ranches just outside Los Angeles. Most indoor scenes were filmed at Samuel Goldwyn's studios, while the outdoor sequences came to life at the Iverson Movie Ranch in Chatsworth, California. This iconic location was a favorite of Hollywood's Western era, appearing in countless productions including Bonanza and The Lone Ranger. For fans of the time, the show's visual authenticity was convincing. Mountains, rocks, and dusty trails framed every adventure, making audiences believe Roy and Dale were living deep in cowboy country. Yet, in reality, the actors often broke for lunch, only minutes from the city. The contrast between the rugged frontier illusion and the urban backdrop of Hollywood revealed how skillfully television could transport viewers into another world. It also showed the growing power of television production during the 1950s. With clever editing, carefully chosen locations, and the charisma of its stars, The Roy Rogers Show brought the American West into millions of living rooms without ever leaving California. It was a Hollywood creation through and through, yet it felt as real as the legends it celebrated. Dale Evans and the Song of Farewell. Every episode of The Roy Rogers Show ended with a warm goodbye. As the credits rolled, Roy and Dale sang Happy Trails, a song that became one of television's most beloved closings. Few viewers knew that the tune was written by Dale Evans herself. Dale composed Happy Trails in 1952 as a message of faith, love, and encouragement. The song's simple lyrics carried a powerful optimism. Happy trails to you, until we meet again. It wasn't just a farewell, it was a blessing. Dale saw it as an expression of gratitude for the show's audience, and a reflection of her Christian belief that kindness should travel with us wherever we go. The theme's enduring popularity made it a symbol of mid-century television innocence. It captured the era's optimism, when heroes were virtuous, and endings were always hopeful. Even today, Happy Trails is instantly recognizable to generations who never watched the show but inherited its tune through pop culture. Dale Evans' creative touch gave The Roy Rogers Show a heart beyond its Western setting. Through music, she ensured that every episode closed not just with applause, but with a smile and a reminder that goodness always rides again. The show that entered the public domain. Unlike most television series from the 1950s, many episodes of The Roy Rogers Show are now in the public domain. This unexpected status allows fans to legally stream, share, and archive episodes without restriction. It is one of the main reasons the show remains accessible today. The lapse happened because of inconsistent copyright renewals. In the early days of television, studios often underestimated the long-term value of their programs. Once NBC and the production company neglected to renew certain copyrights, those episodes automatically entered the public domain. This has had an unusual side effect. It means The Roy Rogers Show has survived more vividly than many of its contemporaries. Old prints have been remastered, uploaded to public archives, and broadcast by small networks around the world. The availability keeps Roy and Dale alive for new generations of viewers who might never have encountered the golden era of television otherwise. For a series built on the values of sharing, loyalty, and accessibility, it feels fitting that it belongs to everyone now. The Singing Cowboys adventures are free to travel, continuing the Happy Trails spirit more than half a century later. The cowboy in the ratings race. When The Roy Rogers Show premiered on NBC in December 1951, television was still a novelty in most homes. Yet the show quickly climbed into the Nielsen ratings, becoming one of the most watched programs of the early 1950s. During the 1951-52 season, it ranked 27th nationwide and later returned to the top 30 in 1954-55. Its success was surprising given that Westerns were just beginning to dominate American screens. Roy Rogers' version was gentler than most. Instead of gritty realism, the series offered moral lessons, clean humor, and lighthearted adventure. Viewers found comfort in the familiarity of Roy's smile, Dale's songs, and Trigger's heroics. The show's family-friendly tone helped it stand out from darker westerns that followed later. Its popularity also reflected Roy's reputation as a national figure. By the time the show aired, he was already a movie star, radio host, and recording artist. Television simply gave audiences more of what they already loved. The Roy Rogers Show may not have stayed on top for long, but it left a lasting mark. It proved that wholesome entertainment could still capture mass appeal in a changing media landscape. The Rogers family of many hearts. Off-screen, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans lived by the same principles they portrayed on television. Together, they raised a large and diverse family that reflected their compassion and faith. Roy had children from previous relationships, and together with Dale, they adopted and fostered several others. Their blended household became a living example of love without boundaries. Tragically, they also endured personal losses. Their daughter Robin Elizabeth, born with Down syndrome, passed away before her second birthday. Dale later wrote a deeply moving book titled Angel Unaware, inspired by Robin's short life. The book became a bestseller and helped change perceptions of children with disabilities in America. Roy and Dale continued to open their home to children in need, many from different backgrounds and countries. They often spoke about the joy of giving every child a sense of belonging. This commitment to family turned the Hollywood couple into real-life heroes. Their legacy went far beyond entertainment. They used their fame to promote adoption, faith, and kindness, values that continue to define their memory long after the final episode faded to black. The bizarre fate of Bullet the Wonder Dog. Just like Trigger, Roy Rogers' loyal German Shepherd, Bullet the Wonder Dog, achieved celebrity status during The Roy Rogers Show. He performed dangerous stunts, tracked outlaws, and even rode in Trigger's saddle in some episodes. But what happened after his television fame ended remains one of Hollywood's strangest animal stories. When Bullet died in the early 1960s, Rogers made an unusual decision. He had Bullet preserved through taxidermy and displayed alongside Trigger and Dale's horse, Buttermilk, in the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum. Visitors were often startled to see the trio of preserved animals posed together, as if ready for another Western adventure. Some fans found it heartwarming, a tribute to lifelong friends. Others found it unsettling, calling it a Wild West wax museum come to life. Animal rights groups later criticized the display as macabre, though Rogers defended it by saying he wanted fans to see them together, just like the old days. When the museum closed in 2013, Bullet's mounted form was auctioned off for $35,000 to a private collector. To this day, his exact location remains undisclosed. The fate of Bullet may sound eerie, but in Roy's mind, it was a final ride into immortality for his most faithful companion. The strange lawsuit over Roy Rogers' name. In the late 1990s, a bizarre legal battle erupted over the right to use the name Roy Rogers. After the star's death, Roy Rogers restaurants, once owned by Marriott, continued operating under his name and likeness. However, Rogers' estate claimed the chain had exceeded its licensing rights by using his image in promotions without proper approval. The lawsuit revealed how deeply the Rogers family guarded his legacy. They argued that the restaurant's advertising cheapened Roy's image by focusing on burgers instead of the wholesome values he represented. While the court ultimately ruled in favor of the restaurant, the controversy reignited debates about celebrity branding and posthumous rights. Even stranger, the case exposed internal disputes among Rogers' heirs over who controlled the commercial use of his likeness. The legal wrangling became so intense that it temporarily halted the museum's operations and delayed preservation efforts for his memorabilia. Fans were shocked to see the cowboy known for justice and simplicity become the subject of such complex legal drama. It underscored an uncomfortable truth. Even legends can become trademarks. And in Roy's case, the struggle over his name reflected how fame never truly rides off into the sunset. The hidden prop gun scandal. During the filming of The Roy Rogers Show, production relied heavily on prop firearms, many of which were real but modified to fire blanks. However, in 1954, an accident involving one of these weapons sparked a quiet controversy on set. According to crew reports, a guest actor accidentally discharged a blank pistol too close to another performer, causing minor injuries. The incident was quickly covered up by Republic Pictures to protect the show's family-friendly reputation. Insurance documents and later studio memos confirmed the event, though it never made public headlines. Roy Rogers, furious about the lapse in safety, ordered stricter weapons protocols for all future productions. This behind-the-scenes mishap remains little known, but it reflects how even wholesome television was not immune to the dangers of practical effects. In later years, historians cited the incident as one of the early examples that prompted Hollywood to adopt safer prop gun regulations. Ironically, Rogers' show, celebrated for moral values, helped shape future film set safety standards. His insistence on protecting his cast and crew became part of his off-screen heroism, even if few fans ever knew it. Roy and Dale's secret humanitarian missions. Beyond their fame, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans quietly funded and led humanitarian missions across the world. In the 1950s and 60s, while most celebrities limited their charity work to publicity events, the couple secretly financed orphanages and children's homes in countries like Korea, Mexico, and Ethiopia. Few fans knew that much of their income from The Roy Rogers Show was redirected into these causes. They even traveled to remote villages under aliases to avoid media attention, according to missionaries who later confirmed their involvement. Dale's strong Christian faith, deepened after the death of their daughter Robin, inspired these acts of compassion. In one documented case, the couple paid for the full reconstruction of a children's hospital wing in Seoul after the Korean War. They never publicized it. Records only surfaced decades later through church archives. This secret legacy stands in stark contrast to the Hollywood image of profit and glamour. To Roy and Dale, heroism didn't end with the closing credits. It meant helping those who couldn't help themselves. The day the music stopped for the king of the Cowboys. Roy Rogers passed away on July 6, 1998, at the age of 86. But in a twist that stunned fans, his funeral wasn't the somber affair most expected. True to his cowboy spirit, Roy had planned every detail himself, down to the last song. Instead of a traditional service, the event became a joyful Western homecoming. Guests sang his signature tune, Happy Trails, and old co-stars shared memories in what felt more like a reunion than a farewell. The most touching moment came when his preserved horse, Trigger, was symbolically positioned at the entrance of the chapel, as if waiting for his master. Dale Evans delivered the final tribute, saying, "He's just gone ahead to make camp for the rest of us." After her death in 2001, she was buried beside him in Apple Valley, California, where fans still visit to leave cowboy hats, toy pistols, and roses. For millions, Roy's death marked not just the end of a man, but the closing of an era when heroes were simple, morals were clear, and even the toughest cowboys had faith in something greater than themselves. As the credits of The Roy Rogers Show faded from television screens, the legend of the King of the Cowboys rode on, etched not just in the dust of the old frontier, but in the hearts of millions who grew up believing in honor, courage, and kindness. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans didn't just play heroes, they tried to live as ones. Their faith, generosity, and unwavering moral compass made them more than entertainers. They became symbols of a simpler, more hopeful America. But behind the shine of silver spurs were real struggles, losses, and sacrifices that few ever saw. Their story was a balance of light and shadow, of fame and faith, laughter and heartbreak. Together, Roy and Dale left behind more than a television legacy. They left a moral inheritance that outlived their time on screen. Even now, decades later, the Cowboy Code still whispers through the American conscience: be truthful, be kind, protect the weak, and when you ride off into the sunset, leave a trail worth following. Roy did just that, and somewhere beyond the hills of memory, Trigger still rears, Bullet still runs, and the echo of happy trails still lingers on the horizon.